to infinity and beyond.
This is me. This is how I win.
Were you rushing or were you dragging? Answer!
You're a wizard, Harry.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you.
No, I am your father.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside the film room. I'm Zach Goins here with Johnny Sobchak for a big episode. We're talking John Wick. We're talking Succession, talking Ted Lasso, all sorts of stuff. Johnny, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you. I am just getting back into the movie mindset. I think there was like a bit of a lull as far as like our coverage of it, kind of trying to keep up with everything, but it was a good month of March and we're heading into April strong, and I'm excited to kind of recap some things. Also got some things to look forward to. So, and with television as well, it is Ted Lasso time, and I've also got Succession back every Sunday night on HBO. So it's a good time right now, I would say.
Absolutely it is. And I finally made my return to the movie theater in preparation for this podcast. I know we're hitting it like a week late with John Wick here, but still worth hitting because, as you heralded it, one of the best action movies in recent American cinema. So we had to talk about it. I broke my my movie list streak and finally checked that out. I'm still playing catch up with, Scream 6. I still need to take one for the team and go see Shazam 2. I've got a couple streamers that should be easier to check out. I really want to see Tetris and Rye Lane, both of those, one on Apple, one on Hulu. So a lot of good stuff to check out. And like you said, TV is absolutely pulling its weight too. We're talking Ted Lasso, we're talking Succession. Both of those are in full swing now. And there's a lot of other good TV that we'll get to here in a second. But first off, make sure that you are subscribed to our newsletter, The Rewind, so you can get the podcast episodes, the movie and TV reviews, any articles on the website, any interviews sent directly to your inbox. We've got some very exciting things coming up in a few months. Over the course of the next couple months, we've got interviews for Shrinking that are in progress. We've got interviews coming up for Schmigadoon season 2 and for Ted Lasso season 3. So a ton of cool stuff that you don't want to miss out on. We just had a Ted Lasso giveaway. Lots of stuff is coming soon. So make sure you're signed up to The Rewind. You can find that on our social media pages and on our website as well. So go do that and we'll start talking about what we have been watching. Johnny, give me the breakdown outside of Lasso, outside of Succession, because we're going to get to both of those. What TV, what movies, what's been occupying your time?
I am 5 episodes deep in The Mandalorian season 3. I have I was a little bit, it was kind of strange. It was like, I was like kind of looking forward to it, but not crazy about it. And then like the first couple episodes came and went and I didn't watch it. And then Reagan and I, my girlfriend, and then her siblings, they're younger and they really like, Mandalorian, Grogu, all that good stuff. And who can blame them? And so we watched the first 2 episodes together, and then we I'm traveling, she's traveling. A couple weeks passed, we watched the next 2 episodes together. And then we just recently watched the 5th episode, and I had no idea. I guess there's only 8 episodes this season. So it's almost like towards the end now.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been fine with that show. I really liked the first couple seasons. Like I was pretty high on it. And then it's been like a 2-year delay. I've also experienced Andor in that interim period, which is really exceptional Star Wars like writing and storytelling. And then now we're back to this, and it's like, I don't know. I'm not really high on it. It's definitely the weakest season by like a big stretch, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm upset. I I bolded this one on my list because I really wanted to talk about it. I know it's interesting. We had similar approaches because we had gotten those screeners for the first 2 episodes. And I checked those out like before the first one came out and then kind of just fell off. Didn't watch anything until like this past week and binged the 19, 20, 21, the last 3 episodes. And I know we talked about episode 3 specifically. That very much felt like Andor. I loved that episode, which started off with this intense Mando and Bo-Katan like dogfight sequence in the sky, and then immediately cut away from all Mandalorian aspects to focus on the New Republic, the amnesty program for the Empire, and the scientist, Dr. Pershing, and everything that he had gone through. So I thought that was super cool to see Coruscant explored more. That's a planet from the prequel trilogy that was very important and kind of just disappeared.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. It very much had the shades of Andor and the political commentary and the just like the way that it was set up was very cool to take a break. I know some people were upset in some comments that I was reading of like, it's called The Mandalorian, show us The Mandalorian. Like, okay, sure, you have a point, but like, it's okay to step away. I guess they have more reason to be upset if it was now knowing that it's only 8 episodes, if they spent a whole episode away. I did not know that at the time. So I thought that episode was great, and I've really enjoyed this season as a whole. I think that that one was probably my peak, which had the least Mandalorian in it, but
right.
I'm surprised to hear you say that this one has been the weakest. I think this season has been the most exciting for me so far.
What? Oh my gosh.
I'm really enjoying it. I like all of the Bo-Katan stuff is super cool to me. And that's coming from someone who didn't watch Rebels, or I've only seen like parts of the Clone Wars. So I'm very invested in that, even without her like backstory and the knowledge of her character. And I think just the collection of Mandalore, like the different Mandalorians all working together, is very cool to me. So
Mandalore and it's Mando lore, would you say?
The lore of Mando.
No, I mean, I'm getting a kick out of that stuff. I'm not gonna say I'm not enjoying it, but like, it's just, I don't know. There's just something special about those first couple seasons. Like, I know it just had like that Western vibe to it, and it was just Mando and Grogu like out on their own adventure and like exploring. And I know that they have to evolve eventually, but I'm also still like kind of pissed off about how they handled the whole like season 2 finale, and then how that pretty much was completely undone in a completely unrelated show.
Because you didn't watch Boba Fett. You're paying the price.
No one wants to watch that trash, okay?
I'm telling you, if you watch those 2 episodes that don't involve Boba Fett and just have like they're literally 2 episodes of The Mandalorian.
I'm not watching it on principle alone, Zach.
That's probably why this season is only 8 episodes, is because they gave you 2 episodes of The Mandalorian during Boba Fett. I'm being dead ass. Like, that's probably why.
You're probably onto something. I didn't think about that, actually. But I don't know. We'll see. There's 3 episodes left. I'm not trying to knock it. I am having a good time. It's just, I've accepted that it's just a light Star Wars fun adventure show that you watch once a week for a couple months, and then it goes away for a year or 2. So we'll see what happens. But yeah,
I think even as like a big Star Wars fan, I think one of the things that I like most about this, and particularly like this season, is that like it's not filling in the gaps in the sense of like, oh, mandatory information or like over explaining stuff from the movies to fill in the gaps. I think it's just like a very pleasant, like, oh, this is what life is like, or this is what like all of the additional information that I am getting feels just like welcome, versus like, oh my God, now they're over explaining like why this one thing that Ahsoka said in this episode, like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel like overly necessary. It's not like to compare it to another Disney property, like the Marvel stuff, where like you absolutely have to see everything else to interconnect it and like make sense. Like, you don't have to see this to understand all of the other Star Wars. It's like a good balance for me. That works really well.
I will say I do like that. Like this season does, and I mean the show in general, but yeah, it's not so like the MCU shows that are like, oh, here's this person and this ties to this, etc. Like it is more kind of doing its own thing, thankfully.
And it's
Um,
not the glup shido fan service type stuff either.
although there was apparently that guy at the bar or whatever that was in the beginning of this week's episode that was like, this is going on over here. You need to go do this. And apparently everyone,
Oh yeah, it was some character from Rebels.
yeah, people were losing their minds over this thing.
People,
Uh,
yeah, I think I haven't watched Rebels. I think the two biggest things for that, I'm pretty sure that character is like LGBTQ, or there's some
really?
representation there, but also the fact that like the character had like a very unique animated design, and
He was very cool
it
looking.
translated really well to live action, because some of the characters, it's almost like throwbacks to the original trilogy and like very costumey puppet type stuff. Some of the people that
Yeah.
we've seen this season, and
Yes.
some of those pirates have even looked like Thanos's children a bit. That it's just like a little too, it's not working for me. But I did think that that character, I can't remember, Zeb, I don't know if that was his name, but I didn't really, Zeb Aurelios, I didn't
Yeah.
really get it because I haven't seen that show. But for the people who did, I'm glad it worked. The one cameo I did like was the redemption for Ahmad Best, the Jar Jar Binks actor who played the Jedi that rescued Grogu. So that was a nice
Yeah.
full circle moment there.
That was fun. Um, but yeah, so that's again, that was a whole tangent, but Mando, it's fine. It's fun. I'm digging it. But it's not, I guess maybe it hurts it that like at the same time I'm watching the last season of Succession, and I
Oh
also
yeah.
came off of like Shrinking, and I'm also watching Ted Lasso. So it's like I wouldn't necessarily put Mando like this season at least like up in that like pedestal,
Mhm.
but it's a good time, and I love Grogu, so I'm a sucker. I'm a mark for that. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
other than that, I mean, of course, just to kind of recap, we're not going to talk about all these movies, but March was a good movie month for me. I watched a lot of stuff. Um, Quick hitters, I watched Creed for the first time. I think I mentioned that a few weeks ago. I
Hell
enjoyed
yeah,
it.
brother.
Crazy about it. Still got to get to 2 and 3 maybe if I'm going to go down that path. And then as far as actual March releases, like I said, Creed 3 I haven't gotten to yet, but I did see of course, John Wick Chapter 4, which we'll be discussing later. And then I also saw Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Um, I had a really good time with that. I think that's been like the surprise of the year. And if, it was March, of course, but I think just to this point of the year, it was one of my more enjoyable like times at the theater. Like I really liked it and thought it was really funny and fun and had good effects and action, and the characters were likable. And again, I'm a kind of a mark for like fantasy stuff, but I thought that this was like well done and kind of brings something different to the blockbuster, because this movie probably costs like what 150 million, and it's
Mhm.
not a superhero movie, it's not Star Wars, it's just this, it's a known property, it's a big property, of course, but I liked seeing something that wasn't, just Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones in like the fantasy realm. I thought that that was a fun kind of break. And I definitely would recommend that if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. Don't let John Wick, steal too much of the thunder from that. But yeah,
That was my debate, my internal debate this weekend when I was picking a movie to go see. I was like, Dungeons and Dragons is more timely in being
yeah,
able to review it that weekend, but you seemed to enjoy John Wick more, and that it was a larger conversation, a
yeah.
larger impact. So that's why I went with that. But
John Wick is
I definitely plan
definitely,
to check out Dungeons and Dragons at
yeah,
some point.
good. You should definitely check it out. John Wick is definitely the bigger and better movie, I would say. And again, from like the conversation perspective, but I really liked it. I would definitely watch more of those movies. So I hope it did pretty well opening weekend. I hope it has some decent legs. And the reviews and audience, scores and everything have all been really, really good as well. So um, that's my plug for Dungeons and Dragons. Go check it out.
Love that. For me, on the other hand, John Wick Chapter 4, the only movie at the theaters, but Mandalorian, obviously, we're talking Ted, we're talking Succession here in a minute. A couple new ones that I've started on the TV side of things, trying to keep up with the ever churning Apple TV Plus machine, because as you know, Johnny and I are big time stans of everything they've got going on. The Big Door Prize is their new comedy that just came out. 3-episode premiere last week. Chris O'Dowd is the lead here, but I've watched the first 3 and I'm feeling it out still. I'm not sold yet, but
Right.
we'll see. I don't know if you've heard anything about it, but it's essentially like this regular town and this vending machine sort of thing, like almost like a photo booth that you would get in at the movie theater back in the day. It shows up and you like put in your handprints and stuff, and then it'll tell you your life's potential. It like spits out a little card and has like a phrase on it. And it kind of just like takes over this town as everybody starts freaking out about it. So it's kind of like, it's a comedy, but it's kind of like eerie, Severance-y type vibes. So we're still trying to figure out what exactly is going on. So as not as like the premise, like what the purpose of this thing is, like what the mystery is. So that one just started, and this Friday, or maybe no, this Wednesday, because Apple switched their dramas come out on Fridays, comedies come out on Wednesdays now. Season 2 of Schmigadoon comes out, which is called Schmicago. It's like the musical theater parody type show, not parody, satire, I guess, type show. Keegan-Michael Key and a ton of Broadway legends are in that. I was kind of mixed on the first season, but this second season is an absolute blast from everything that I've seen so far. I've watched a couple episodes, but that's coming this Wednesday. So more to come from that show and Inside the Film Room, but staying busy. And I know we're about to be even busier in probably the distant future, TBH, but some exciting news out of Westeros, potential news, I guess we'll say. We know House of the Dragon season 2 is on the way, but we could be throwing it back even further into the Targaryen dynasty. Rumor has it that Game of Thrones is working on a prequel about Aegon's conquest. That's Aegon the Conqueror, the very first Aegon Targaryen, who brought the Targaryen dynasty out of Valyria and over to Westeros, founded King's Landing, founded like the entire dynasty of the Targaryens in Westeros, conquered the 6 of the 7 kingdoms. Big time dragons, big time action, big time battle. I'm very excited. I know I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago about the fire that I've been reading, Fire and Blood. I'm way past this. So because that's obviously how the book starts. But so I know everything that would go down here, and it's super exciting stuff. I'd really want to see it explored. If you thought House of the Dragon, well, I guess we still have a lot to see from House of the Dragon, but this would be different enough, but also like, Targaryens and dragons kicking ass and taking names. So I'm always down to see more of that. And the interesting thing here is that there could be a film, some sort of film incorporation here, that this maybe is going to be kicked off with a feature film that then leads into a potential series. Obviously, they're HBO, Warner Brothers, they're kind of doing that with Dune, starting with the movie. They have Dune the Sisterhood, they have the second Dune movie, the Batman, and then leading into Gotham PD and all of these other shows that are coming, the Penguin. So
hey, Zach connecting the dots.
I'm, call me the world's greatest detective. Am I Batman right now? But no, I think this could be very fun. I would love to see, you and I back in the day got the final season of Game of Thrones on the big screen at Silver Spot in Chapel Hill. And that was just like a bootleg HDMI cord plugged into the big screen. But to see an actual like movie scale, I know these shows are kind of at this point shot on like movie budgets, movie scale kind of stuff, but like I feel like that would just be a whole new level to kick things off. And then, maybe like months later dive into the continuation of that in a series. I think that would be, I would sign me up. We're all about some Game of Thrones, some House of the Dragon over here. So
yeah, no question. To your point, I think those are some great observations. And I'm all for this, obviously. My only reservation, like to some degree, would be like, I guess, and you know more about the history. I mean, you've read the book, so you know a little bit more about it than I do. But I guess like they've always talked about Aegon. They've always talked about the conquest coming over to Westeros and everything that entailed and everything. But like, is it too much to go back and show all that? Like, is it like better left as kind of not mystery, but like to the imagination? You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, like a conquest sounds so cool and it sounds so epic, and the scale of it and the dragons, and Aegon sounds like a godlike figure, basically. His sisters, Visenya and can't remember the name of the other one. Yeah, Rhaenys. So like I build it up in my mind, and I think all the fans have built it up so much, is like bringing that part to life, like going a bridge too far almost. Like I'm being a devil's advocate because obviously I would still love it and like to see it.
Right.
But like part of me wonders like, is it better to just like explore other parts of the world or like other stories? Because another part of it is like, you know, it's a conquest. So we know he's going to conquer Westeros, and like the knowing what happens isn't like the biggest issue because that happens in plenty of shows and movies. But knowing that he's going to win, like at pretty much every turn, I'm sure there's wrinkles in there and things that were upset and kind of tragedies and all that. But knowing that it's him just crushing all these different parts of Westeros, like the dynamics and like the drama that they can build into that, that's maybe the biggest question. I think it would make for great spectacle, and I can definitely see the appeal. And I think it's a brilliant idea to do a feature film part of that story, and maybe just do like an introductory piece and have some, you know, big action, like epic, you know, big screen stuff. But then going into a series or a show, a season, 2, 3 seasons, like how do you structure that, or how do you break that down? I'm sure that's all stuff they're trying to figure out right now, but I'd be curious, you know, with me saying that, what do you think of that potential?
Yeah, I definitely, all of that is very valid. I think for me, the biggest concern is beyond that. Like, so if we make this movie about Aegon and then a series, like essentially you're filling in all of the gaps between, if you're like going by the story of the book, like if you go Aegon and then assuming a season or 2 of the series, like you're essentially going from the start all the way up to House of the Dragon. And then House of the Dragon, we don't know how long this is going to go on, you know, through the end of the Dance of the Dragons. I don't know how much further beyond that. Like, are we essentially, if we get this movie and series made, are we going to have from the start of the Targaryens through the death of Daenerys in season 8 of Game of Thrones? Like, is the entire Targaryen story going to be mapped out? And like, I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm just curious, like, how far do you go with each story? And right. If like, I feel like that's a hard choice to make of like, okay, we're going to go this far, but then we're leaving like this one tiny little gap in the Fire and Blood source material that doesn't justify its own series. But then people like, I'm trying to think as like a creator, is like, do you feel bad that you didn't do this one portion that doesn't, you know, you're not going to ever revisit it just to make that one little story because you've already got a bookend on each side with other properties. I feel like it just gets like, I'm fine to see, I will take as much as you give me, let me slop it up. So I'm not complaining about that. I just think they have to have very, very difficult conversations, I feel like, to completely map everything out of just how much they want to do.
No, 100% agreed. And I think the good news about all these different things they're working on at this point is, number one, they know how badly they fucked up with season 8. So they know what failure looks like, and they know how that feels and how badly that set them back. Now that they're going the right direction again and have such good will built up once more with House of the Dragon, I think they're very much like Casey Bloys and those people that are really the top dogs at like HBO and in charge of this stuff. I think that they're going to be very careful. They're not going to rush anything, and they're not going to move forward if they don't feel confident. Like that other prequel show that
The Long Night.
Yeah, The Long Night, that was before even House of the Dragon. They shot like a $15-20 million pilot, and then they just ate that. Like they're like, nope, we're not.
I would love to see that released one. I know it's never going to be released, but like just to see, that would be so cool.
Yeah, but I think so. Those are the two things that make me feel good, knowing like, I think the biggest question is, do you do it? What are the benefits of doing it? What's the storytelling and all that? I think once you crack that and they move forward with it, I'm gonna be fine. But like I think the execution will be good. It's just a matter of what they decide to green light and is it worthwhile. I think that's where the key is. I think the execution could be fine, and House of the Dragon has proven that so far, I think. But yeah, this remains to be seen. It sounds like it's pretty early days with this, so I think we could probably have House of the Dragon be over before we get anything related to this.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Well, we'll see what happens. I'm almost done with this book. I got past, like, I feel like I'm kind of in the decline. Like, I got past the Dance of the Dragons and I've got like 150 pages left. And I was like, I feel like the main majority, like all the like crazy shit has popped off already. So I'm kind of just like limping through to the finish line at this point. I don't know. Maybe something's going to pop off here in the last little bit, but I swear next podcast, maybe 2 podcasts from now, I'll try and have this thing knocked out, but I don't know. I've got a long time before House of the Dragon season 2, so no rush.
No rush.
But changing topics over here to a little TED Talk, if you will. We're talking Ted Lasso, episodes 2 and 3. We reviewed, recapped, whatever you want to call it, the first episode of the season, and have since gotten 2 more episodes. Episode 4 will release this Wednesday. That is as far as I have seen. So I know I'm 1 ahead of you, Johnny, but episodes 2 and 3, these 2, first of all, episode 2, I loved this episode so much. I think it is one of the best of the entire series. The one from, at this point, 2 weeks ago. It's called I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea. It's really for me, it was like the perfect balance of the happiness and fun of season 1, and then the emotional weight of season 2, some of the darker themes. We got a ton of great moments there between the Roy Kent and Trent Krim as they kind of come to terms with each other and learn to work together. We get a fantastic moment between Rebecca and Rupert, and then Zava, the new character introduced in this episode. Anna Waddingham is fantastic. A ton of great Cristo Fernandez, Danny Rojas moments as he just like channels his inner Roy Kent, tries his best. He's really grown, come a long way. But this episode was brilliant to me. I really think it is one of the top 3, top 5 episodes of this show. I don't know if you felt the same way, but we can talk about 2, we can talk about 3, we can talk about them together. Whatever you want, King. You tell me.
Yeah, we can kind of like mesh them together. I'm honestly probably gonna struggle a little bit to remember the last episode.
What's what? Yeah.
Episode 2, especially.
Episode 3, just episode 3 was called 451. There was a little bit more I guess the plot there. We had some more moments with Rebecca as she was she went to visit the psychic there. We have the big closing of that episode is Sam starting his restaurant. We get the win streak from Richmond as Zava kind of comes in, the 451 title referring to their formation with Zava just doing everything. But the moment with the green matchbook at the end of
man, that was creepy.
Is Sam Becca coming back at this restaurant? Huge moments for Colin, the strong and capable man, as we start the episode with him and learn that he's gay. And there's obviously setting up. They've been planting the seeds for that throughout the series. There's definitely been hinting, and then to get the confirmation here, to see the way that Isaac's in the locker room and says, "Sounds a bit gay, bruv," and like it's very clear, like they're setting this up as like something that Colin's going along with, but obviously is bothered by. So I think there's some room to do some very cool stuff here.
Right.
But yeah, I'll turn it over to you. I've kind of just rambled about these 2 episodes, but what are your thoughts? How are you feeling about this season so far?
I'm liking it. Again, still early days, 3 episodes in. I'm curious as to where like this is all headed, obviously, because we know it's quote unquote the last season, and I just want them to stick the landing so badly, and I want this all to just pay off. And I'm still like feeling out again where this is headed, like what the resolutions are all going to be. It just seems a little like I don't know, because you can tell they're going for something very different, obviously. And I think I'm just like trying to like settle into like the vibes. Like they're bringing in this new player, and that's like that's like been a big focus of the first 3 episodes, or at least the last 2.
Mhm.
And then there's also this rivalry, like Nate and Rupert, they've
Rupert.
taken kind of like a back seat like the last couple episodes, and they like seemed like they were really going to be. Now season or episode 2, there was the rivalry between them, and it seemed like it was going to go one way, and then Rupert was going to swoop in, get this player, and then of course Rebecca was going to be like really upset, and like she's still trying to get over that. I thought episode 2 was better in the respect that like it was like just a nice like episode, and like it had like great like moments and like messages, especially like regarding Rebecca and like trying to get over, like get past Rupert.
Her monologue when she's talking in episode 2, when she's talking about the way that he made her feel when he would come to the bar and woo her, like that the sequence of that into her standing up to him and going to see Zava, like that was just like, give her the Emmy now.
Yeah, the last 10 or 15 minutes she absolutely crushed it, Hannah Waddingham. And then then there's this weird thing going on in episode 3 where she's like having this like fortune teller like situation like happen. I'm not like super,
I was a bit thrown off with that initially, because I had forgotten, like it was a very quick like moment in passing when she's speaking to her mom on the phone and she says the thing about the psychic, and I had to kind of like go back, and it took me a minute to be like, wait, who is she going to see again? And I almost had thought that it was Rupert's first wife that he had left for Rebecca. And then I was like, oh wait, no, that's completely different. This is just the fortune teller that her mom had talked about.
Yeah, right. No, that makes sense. So yeah, it's just like I think a lot of, and then there's also, they have these other kind of characters that have been like seemed as like more supporting, of course, and they're starting to like bring them in a little bit more, like up them. So it's just like a lot going on, I think, is like the main thing. And that's kind of, I don't know, like I like it, but I also think there's like risk involved with that, obviously. And so I'm just really hoping that everything ends in like maybe not satisfying, because you don't always want to like have it be quote unquote satisfying, but like I just want it to be like, I want it to make sense, and I want it to all feel like I'm fine with however it plays out. And I'm just like, oh man, there's I'm just like anxious. I think I'm enjoying it, but I'm anxious.
I feel that. I loved episode 2. I thought episode 3 was really solid as well. But one thing we haven't talked about is Ted and his relationship status, his as he's finding out bits and pieces of what's going on back at home via Henry at the end of the first episode, and then throughout 2 and 3, learning about his wife, about Michelle, and their former marriage counselor. That is dirty,
bro.
I feel for my King Ted there, but other things I'm trying to think. I like Zava. He's obviously, like you said, he's been a big part of this. I think it's like the character himself isn't really as like the situations, the plot surrounding him has been a big part, but at the same time, like it's not like they're taking away from other characters to give him moments. I feel like they're using him as like a plot device for other characters. So I'm okay with it in that sense. It's not like, oh, we're missing out on Jamie Tart because we have Zava. Instead, Zava's presence is giving us excellent Jamie moments. I think Phil Dunster has been just in I feel like through 3 episodes, he's been the biggest star for me here. He's had a ton of great heartfelt moments, comedic moments. A lot of stuff is going well for that character, or for Phil Dunster, and we're seeing a lot of that character. And he is the one supporting player who has not been nominated for an Emmy yet, and that is a crying shame. We're gonna get that Emmy this year, King. I feel it. At least the Emmy nom. But so I'm good on Zava. I think I'm still jury's still out on Shandy. I don't know how I feel about her. Healy's new sidekick that is
see, it's like that's the thing.
Like I'm not compelled by her yet.
Yeah, it's like I'm not compelled by her. Zava is like he's just like a joke, so it's like it is playing up other things and like setting up other characters to like go off of him. But like
I need Shandy to do the same thing for Keeley that Zava is doing for Jamie, and it's not happening yet.
Yeah, it's just like it's just throwing in these new characters and elements. You got this, Ted's ex-wife's boyfriend, the marriage counselor. It's like, oh God, like now he's on the screen, like he's picking up the phone. I'm like, where the hell is this all going? Like, I'm just so like nervous about like where they're like apportioning like everything within this, like the story and like the time they're spending with everything. I'm just like, oh God, I hope that this is all. And like Roy, like he's been kind of like not as involved, I feel like this season. Like he's obviously been like chiming in with Jamie, and like they had that great moment in episode 2 with what the hell's his name? The journalist.
Trent
Krim. And so like there's been good things, but it's just like I'm just not sure like where this is going. I think that's my biggest concern. Like I just hope so badly that this is like gonna deliver, because like Zava, like how does he, and like also like I get that he's like factoring, like he's gonna be the reason if they win the league, like he's gonna be the way they're doing that.
I feel like there has to be some sort of something where Zava goes away, gets injured, like he's here to like propel them and like get them to that point, but
and then they have to cross it without him. Yeah, I can see that.
And I feel like there's gonna be like, I think Jamie's gonna be big in
definitely
like using him to like show the growth from season 1, Jamie being the all about me player to now learning to like work with the rest of the team, take a back seat, and then still be the one to get the opportunity to save the day when Zava goes down or something.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that's definitely a route I could see them going, and it would make sense. I think Zava, like, he's a character I don't see necessarily being there at the end, like in the last episode or 2 episodes even. I do think it could fall back more to like Jamie, and like closing up his arc and like bringing him full circle. Could he even be celebrating by, kissing Keeley, like lifting the trophy? Who knows? But yeah, I think that there's merit.
Absolutely. And final thought on Ted, just a fun fact while we're talking Zava, Apple TV Plus power couple, Zava actor Maximilian Osinski is actually married to Deacon Lockman, who plays on Severance, Adam Scott's characters, I'm trying to remember her name, Miss Casey, that works at Lumen and has no spoilers, has a connection outside of Lumen as well. So what a fun little Apple TV Plus couple.
Very cute.
All right, moving on ahead to Succession. We are back, baby. The Roys are absolutely tearing shit up over here. Season 4, the final season of Succession. We're 2 episodes deep at this point. And my goodness, episode 1 came out of the gate hot. That was not quite Letterboxd standard, but I have a TV app that I use that's kind of similar. That was a strong 5 out of 5, easy rating right there for episode 1. And then followed it up with another banger last night, this Sunday. And let me just say, I did not expect for Connor Roy to be the one ripping my heart out. We had a lot of Tom and Shiv heartbreak moments, which, none of these relationships are healthy in the first place, but still they do this show in a way where it's able to still make you feel for these characters that are the scum of the earth. I feel for Shiv, I feel for Tom, Connor in the sense, like, I feel like I could probably have the best, like, the best reason to feel for him, because most of his stuff was about his family and not his relationship with Willa. But the line of, the good thing about a family that doesn't love you is that you learn to live without them. Oh my goodness. Like that hit last night. That was hard.
Yeah. No, Connor was definitely a surprise highlight of episode 2. And him and Willa, like, they seem like they're pretty, like, last season ended with them basically getting engaged, and then the start of this season, things seem to be pretty rocky between them, of course. And Connor's still like going after this whole election thing.
1%, baby.
Hey, don't want to get squeezed out. And so like I think that I think it's gonna be almost at least a 3 episode kind of arc with them, because we know next episode is gonna be the wedding. Which is, well, I guess it's pretty nuts in the respect that we know that, Connor and Willa are doing this, for different reasons almost. Like I think they do genuinely care about each other and like even love each other, but Willa is getting, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars potentially. Connor is getting some prestige for his political aspirations, and also just like a nice looking lady to be with him. And it's like, I wonder, we're obviously going to have this come to a head, but it's almost like this whole Connor Willa situation has been just kind of boiling under the surface, like up and down for the last 3 seasons.
We knew it was never going to work, but
yeah, but now it's like, well, is it going to work? Like, are they going to stay together? Are they going to get
Mhm.
married? Like,
it was a very different end of episode from 1 to 2, the way that Connor crawled in bed with Willa versus Tom and Shiv on opposite sides of the bed.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, damn, maybe they can make it work. Maybe they can give it a go and have it be a worthwhile endeavor. But
it's not going to be healthy and loving, but like it might be tolerable. And in this show, I feel like that's the peak of quality relationships, is just tolerable.
In this show, yes, definitely. I would say most of the relationships are not tolerable, professionally, personally, romantically. So we're seeing through episode 1, obviously a lot of the focus was on the children, and I say children, the kids, Shiv, Roman, Kendall, going after their dad, almost kind of from a kind of backdoor kind of attack where they go after Pierce and are kind of, they have their own thing going on, but they're going to try to just get Pierce. They're kind of talking themselves into it, where they're like, oh no, this is a good opportunity. This makes sense. We shouldn't be trying to do our own thing. But then at the same time, it's like, well, it would be nice to screw over dad. Maybe that is part of the reason that they're going into it. And I think one of the big conflicts that started with that situation in episode 1 and now has gone all the way to the end of season 2 and will be carrying on at least into the next episode and probably throughout the season, is Roman and his role in that. And can he really turn himself away from his dad and separate from Logan and stick with his siblings to do something on their own? Or is his kind of like almost naive, delusional love for Logan going to cost not only him potentially personally, but his siblings, and like what could happen with their relationships to each other and their also their aspirations for their own company and place within their dad's company as well. I think there's going to be it's going to be gut wrenching, I think, down the stretch, like between the siblings especially. I just don't know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah, they just can't get out of their own mess. They had exactly what they thought they wanted, of being, free. This deal was going to be done. They were going to have a fresh start with whatever media company they wanted to build. And then the second that they get a sniff of a chance to screw over their old man, like Kendall and Shiv, that's all they needed. Roman was kind of okay to move on, because he is kind of like not a softie, but like he is the most vulnerable to feeling for his father, it seems. Yeah. And we definitely get hints of that here at the end of episode 2 and what's to come with 3, based on the previews. So they may have made this move, but the Roman thing may end up, because he was the one that was against making this move, and now that may come back to bite them moving forward. But yeah, I think he's been great. Kieran Culkin has been fantastic this season. I mean, everybody has been, but him in particular, and Tom, Greg, both of them have been a blast. I think that the Tom and Greg arc in the first episode at the birthday party, roasting Greg for the date that he brought and her bag. So many great adjectives: capacious, gargantuan, and then to have like the quote unquote sex tape that they're talking about, and making Greg admit that, like, their relationship has grown, and obviously Tom needs that, considering the absolute lack of a relationship he's going to have with Shiv after all is said and done. But
Yeah,
I think Greg has had a lot of room to grow. He's in a good position here. I know I wanted to bring over our stock up, stock down that we were talking from the House of the Dragon recaps we would do, because this is obviously something where that plays in very well. I think stock up for me is Greg. He made the big move at the end of season 3, aligning with Tom, going with Logan. And if you stuck around and watched the like not post credits, but the little like inside the episode, Nicholas Braun was talking about how like this was, even though the Carrie thing was kind of played off as a joke, the way that he was super awkwardly telling her about her tape, like he made a power move. He was put in the position to like make a power move, like show power over someone else. And that someone being, you know, Logan's right hand, that he's kind of climbing the ranks and doing real work here instead of just being I don't know. That was kind of still like a little bitch boy move of Tom just not wanting to have to do it himself. But still, I think that Greg is looking up, and he's in a good spot here. And then down, I feel like I'm trying. There's a lot of people that could be down. I think also stock up. We were talking about him earlier, but Roman is in a good spot because he's kind of that swing player where he's being courted by both sides, and he has a lot to lose if he makes the wrong choice. But I think he is in a position to make whatever choice he wants. Stock down, I'm probably gonna get Carrie. Obviously, that tape, that interview, the audition was not great, but
how'd you like those skills?
Yeah, those were less than stellar. The arms were rubbery. I'm trying to think, but Shiv is not looking too hot. Came out over eager in episode 1 with the $10 billion purchase of Pierce, and is now, you know, getting blackballed by all of the divorce lawyers in Manhattan. Tom's really doing a number on her with the help of her own dad. Her hatred of her father, if you'll call it that, has led her to make bad decisions. So I think she's my stock down, but I'll pass it over to you. What are your thoughts through the first 2?
Yeah. You damn near named everyone, Zach. I would say, I agree with, your assessments, of course, of those characters. I would say, man, this is tough. I would say stock up on Logan, actually, because I think it just seems like no matter what, he's manages to get to some point where he is still in control or like is comfortable. Even in the final, or not the final scene, but the big group scene towards the end of episode 2, he was like, he seems like he's being genuine. He seems like he's coming from a place of like sincerity and trying to like quote unquote apologize and also like come meet with the kids. But Carrie's there and like there's all these other elements and he's kind of like putting something on. But even at the end, like when he walks out, he's like, he calls them dopes and he's like, you guys aren't serious and you're gonna cost us. I think he does at some level care about the kids, and I think that maybe that will result in, I don't know, I don't want to say like a coming together or like them being reunited in some form or fashion, but I do think it's gonna result in something maybe better than anything we've seen from his relationship with his kids so far. I'm optimistic with that, but I do think that there's potential. And also from the business side of things, he is right about Matsson, and he is right thinking that he's going to walk away, that they shouldn't do this. His business sense has not really wavered at any point, even though he has had medical issues and his kids have tried to, spin certain narratives. He has still made the right choices pretty much the entire show. And I think that he's going to be smart, like all the way to the end. And I will also say Brian Cox has been outstanding. He's been one of the top 3, I think, performers this season so far. And he had that speech in the studio or like in the office for ATN, and I thought he was just like, he was electric. Like he was on a level like he hasn't ever really engaged with before. Like he never really yells like that, or at least like for a sustained period of time. So I thought that
And
was
it's not even though it's not his, you know, played it off as if it's his passion for ATN, his passion for news
yeah,
that's driving him. When
yeah,
in fact, this sudden reinterest in ATN is that, oh, my kids are going to
yeah,
start their own broadcast, take over Pierce. And so this is his way of
yeah. Gotta
fighting back
protect it.
against them, that like, oh, all of a sudden I love cable news again because I'm going to be in a battle against these children who
Yeah.
I want to, you know, blast off the face of the earth. So
You're totally right. Yeah, no, that's true. I think that's just a testament to how good of an actor Logan can be sometimes, where
mhm.
he really sells something. And yeah, I think I totally buy him. And then as far as stock down, like selling out someone, I would say, oh, I hate to say this, but I just always feel like he's heading towards disaster and something dark is Kendall. I think he has shown some intelligence, some savvy in certain elements of the first couple episodes, but there is, I think, the most telling and like disturbing thing, at least one of them so far, is this moment in episode 2 where he gets a call from Matson and he connects with him and he has a conversation, basically gets a warning shot from Matson who says, stay away, do not try to stop this vote, do not try to interfere with the sale of
Narrator, he did not.
and he does not heed that advice. And he has this look on his face where it's like he knows what he's doing is wrong and he's still gonna do it. And I don't know what his motive is exactly. I don't know if he's just trying to fuck Logan, if he's trying to screw over his entire family, including his siblings. He just has such a self-destructive streak. And it's not even about like addiction. It's not even all these other mental health things. It's just like he has this in him where he wants to like just like burn it down. I don't know if it's like self-hatred or what. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on under there, obviously. He's probably the most complex character in the whole show. But I just think he's someone where Logan always feels like he's going to come out on top and probably have the better side of things. Kendall always feels like he's going to have the opposite. So I hate to say it. I hope it doesn't happen, but I just feel negative on him, at least at this point going forward.
I feel like that's a safe bet. Like you said, that man is always on the verge of a breakdown, on a verge of disaster. So we'll have to see what happens here in episode 3. Sunday nights, they never went anywhere because we just came off of The Last of Us. But
Right.
Sunday nights are just you look forward to them all week long, which is a shame. I know you mentioned it last week of like wishing the weekend away so you could get to 9 o'clock on Sunday night and watch this. But that's absolutely true here with Succession. Well, here we go, switching over to the big screen before we wrap things up. John Wick Chapter 4, the 4th and question mark final installment in the John Wick franchise. Well, not the franchise. We're getting the ballerina spinoff with Ana de Armas. They've mentioned John Wick 5. Who knows? But they're taking a break from at least this line of movies for the foreseeable future. We've got Keanu Reeves back as the boogeyman himself, John Wick. We've got Donnie Yen, Bill Skarsgård, Lawrence Fishburne, Shamir Anderson, Lance Reddick, Rina Sawayama, and Ian McShane, all in the cast here. Currently sitting at a 94 critic score and audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Little lower for me. We'll get into it, but I gave this a 72 out of 100, 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. Johnny, on the other hand, 4.5 stars. What's your score out of 100 here? How are we coming in? You went from a 4 to a 4.5 on a repeat viewing. This was a big one for you.
Yeah, and I would go watch it again. And I just might at some point if April isn't too busy. But I would say it's a solid like 85, probably. Upper getting towards a 90. I think we're gonna get into a little bit more detail, of course, but I do hear what you're saying from like what you mentioned to me. It's like I liked it, but it was like another John Wick movie. And I think that's how I similarly felt for like stretches of it when I first saw it. And then like I think the last 30 minutes just completely like melted my face off. And I was so in awe and like happy with how they decided to close things out and like do the end of this story or this movie. I was like, okay, no, that was great. Like I really liked that. And then like the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. The characters, the little like visual things they were doing, like it's absolutely stunning technical like achievement. But then it's just a well-oiled, like it's the peak of what John Wick is. And I think that's why I accepted it and did go a little bit higher with my rating. But I can hear what you're saying. Like I'm not totally discounting that, but I think if you watched it again, I'd be curious to see what you would think after you sit on it a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited to hear a little bit more, like get into some of the details behind why we
of course
liked it so much.
Of course. Well, before those details, here's the plot details. John Wick uncovers a path to defeating the High Table, but before he can earn his freedom, Wick must face off against a new enemy with powerful alliances across the globe and forces that turn old friends into foes. So, as we know, the first 3 movies, I think, all take place like literally the same day or something. It's like 1 and 2 like literally go straight into each other, and then the third one I'm pretty sure picks up right after the second one, but that one takes place over multiple days. And then this one is set within the same month, so it's very quickly after this is all still the same sequence of events, but essentially it's John Wick versus the High Table. He's trying to find his way out. Essentially, he owes this debt and is trying to stop having assassins come after him all the damn time so that he can just be. And that comes in, at a high cost when you're going against the High Table. Bill Skarsgård's character is now the big bad here, playing the Marquis, and he's really just kind of, it's his family that's in charge of the High Table, I guess, or like very close to being in charge of the High Table. So he's working to keep John Wick, to kill John Wick, essentially. And then we've got the supporting cast of Donnie Yen playing Kane, who's like an assassin that sort of works for the Marquis, sort of doesn't, has a history with John Wick. They have a really cool dynamic, a cool relationship, John and Kane. Mutual respect between hitmen, I guess. And then I really like the Shamir Anderson character coming in as Mr. Nobody, and him and his pup. Again, a mutual sort of respect because of the dog connection between John Wick and Mr. Nobody. But overall, my thoughts on this movie. Here we go. I saw this just this past weekend, so I was a bit late to it. You had seen the screening a week early. You had hyped it up. Jake had seen it 3 times and hyped it up. I was going into this, maybe it was a product of the expectations, but having edited your review, which is on the website, go check it out, that talks about this being one of the best one of the best pieces of action filmmaking in recent American cinema. People comparing this to Mission Impossible Fallout. It was good. It had a lot of fun, a lot of good moments here, but for me, this was never really elevated to, you said earlier, that like a standard John Wick movie. It is a John Wick movie. I think it had its moments. There's no doubting the fight choreography, the stunts, the set pieces, all those things are next level, but those are all just like sort of individual events that happened. It was a string of cool moments versus anything that was ever, as compelling as a Mission Impossible all the way through from start to finish. And I think one of the differences there for me is that like it's John Wick is a lot of the same, and like, okay, it's John Wick killing people, not the same ways, different ways that he's killing people. But when you compare it to a Mission Impossible, there's no hanging off the side of an airplane, driving off a cliff, like helicopter off the side of the mountain. It's just like different variations of John Wick. And like, I'm not saying like everything has to be Mission Impossible, but I think just the way that I went into this movie with such high expectations because of what I had heard, I'm blaming everybody else for me not liking this movie as much. But I don't want it to come across like I didn't like this, because I absolutely did. I had fun with it. It's very entertaining. I think that the Donnie Yen and Shamir Anderson parts were the most compelling for me. I really liked those 2 characters and what came from them. So I liked the post-credits scene as well. Who knows what's going to happen there, but I think that could be setting up the new character Akira introduced that's played by Rina Sawayama, a pop star. who will be at Bonnaroo later this year. So I'll get up close and personal with the John Wick star. I thought that was cool. I think that they could be setting up something there. I don't know if that would be a separate spinoff from the ballerina or something that works in there. Anyway, I'll pass it back to you. What are the thoughts here?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying there. I would say, I mean, I said this coming out of the first screening, and I still feel I feel this to some degree about the movie. I mean, Mission Impossible, specifically Mission Impossible Fallout, I think is still clear of this movie because like all the stuff we're talking about, the high table, Bill Skarsgård, all these different characters, like ultimately like the story and like all that stuff with the dynamics and whatnot, like it's exactly what you want and need out of a John Wick movie, but it's not trying to be something like this like super deep, like very like thoughtful like examination of anything really, or like, you know, John Wick as a character is iconic and he has interesting you know, a backstory that's interesting, and he has these relationships that you get like to explore a little bit with these other characters, but he's kind of like, he's almost like a cipher, like he's a normal, quote unquote normal dude who just is really good at killing people, and he's played by Keanu Reeves. Whereas like in Mission Impossible, just to compare since we've talked about it, like Ethan Hunt, he has so much history like over the last 20 years, and he has Tom Cruise playing him, and he's you know, one of the best actors I think of the last 30-40 years, for at least in the United States. And like I think he lends himself so well to adding depth and adding like real intrigue and you know, complexity to his character, and also just the stories that they tell in those movies. And I think that you're never gonna get that in like this type of movie, like a John Wick, and that's fine. Like it's not what it's going for, I get that, but I think that's what separates it. Same thing with something like Mad Max Fury Road, which I would also put on that upper pedestal above this. Like again, that's a movie kind of to compare. It's not heavy on dialogue. It's not, it didn't even really have a script. Like it was storyboarded, and then they went out and shot it, and they came up with scripts like along the way. Like it's more about the action and the movement and the motion telling a story. And then there's also like more like there's dense like thematic stuff going on at the same time, like what everything means and what these characters represent. Like that's not really like what John Wick is going for necessarily, maybe on some level, but I think that is what that distinction is. So for me, I do agree with you on that point. Now, what I will say is this movie is still incredible, unbelievable, and some of the most mind-blowing, well executed, gorgeous, like sustained sequences of action that you'll ever see, like in anything. Like from the Osaka sequence, which I like how this movie has like a kind of a epic intro to John Wick, and then quickly goes into this like very short like horse chase scene. And then and there's like a single gunshot or like that happens where, you know, there's a kind of a killing at the end of that sequence that it builds up to. But then there's no other real action for like another 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And so it kind of slowly lulls you and introduces all these new characters and gets you in there. And then this Osaka sequence in Japan is so like incredible, and like it has these fantastic actors that are like being introduced to this world. And you know, it's Donnie Yen in particular is like a standout, Rina Sawayama as well. You just get so much like visual complexity and like lushness to what's going on, like the colors, the lighting, the surroundings, the props, the choreography, of course, to the action. And then also like these different relationships that are like bang, 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 quickly established. You get personalities that are very different and conflicting and contrasting. Like I think all that is just, it's so well done. Like they of course have it down to like almost a science at this point. And that's why I say, like, I think it is the peak of the John Wick movies. Like I think everything that they did before builds up to this. And I think they really did a good job of improving and layering these things. And I do think like from a character standpoint and like a supporting cast standpoint, I think that this is the best one, especially. And then when you combine that with just how well the action is done, the cinematography by Dan Lawson is incredible. I mean, the lighting setups are just like out of this world. Don't understand how they did them. the use of water in some sequences, the use of other elements of the kind of the mise en scène with the fan that spins around a certain scene that lights things and kind of introduces tension, and just the way they invent so many different elements that play in so like naturally and so well. I just really found myself, especially after seeing it the second time, like really kind of like gushing over the movie. And it's just a fun movie to go see with a crowd. Obviously, it's doing super well at the box office. I can't imagine that if you were interested, you haven't seen it by now. But if you haven't, or maybe you're not even a John Wick fan or not a huge action fan, I think you should still give it a shot. It's just like a fun spectacle, and it doesn't feel long, even though it's by far the longest John Wick movie. Like I thought it flew by for the most part. And by the end of it, like I said, I was lulling through certain sections, like maybe in the middle, at least on the first viewing. The second time, it was definitely more fluid. And then when you get to that last 30-minute sequence that closes out the movie, really,
the longest staircase of all time.
It's just so fun. Like it's just a great time. Now, again, it's it's not apples and oranges, but it's what are your favorite types of apples, Zach? Granny Smith.
I'm a big
delicious
honey crisp apple.
Honey crisp apple. So it's not apples oranges. It's Honey Crisp and Granny Smith or Red Delicious apple. It's a little bit different, but Mission Impossible Fallout, Mad Max Fury Road, John Wick Chapter 4. I think just over the last 10 years or so, those are the ones that I've really put up there like upper echelon. They're all offering something different. And I think that's what's so fun. And John Wick, I think in particular, to your point, I do hear you where like it seems you have to really be accepting of the fact that there's going to be a lot of killing and just like shooting.
That's part of what you mentioned, the runtime, and that you didn't feel it. I feel like I did, because it was just like, again, very creative, very impressive action choreography. But it was like, okay, now and I don't mean to sound like I'm like a stick in the mud or anything, because like I really enjoyed 1 through 3. And again, I enjoyed this movie, don't get me wrong. But it's like 2 hours and 49 minutes. It's like, okay, now we're killing people here. Now we're killing people there. Now they've upped it from 20 million to 23 million. Now they've upped it from 23 to 30 million. Like it's like I was like, well, if we could have trimmed it down a little bit. And again, this is also not me being like movies are too long. I love long movies, but I think I don't want to sound too negative. So the staircase sequence was amazing at the end. I kept waiting for it, and I was like, I know people have talked about a staircase sequence, and there's quite a few staircases in this movie. And I was like, was that it? Like, was that the one? Like, and then I was like, oh,
yeah,
this is this staircase. But outside of that, I really enjoyed the what was his name? He killed Piotr, however you say it. The bigger guy that was like at the poker table and then running through the nightclub. It gave Batman Penguin vibes a bit.
That was fun.
But like the crazy rave with the waterfalls and like that, I was like, who is this guy that is just like sitting on his ass, this big dude? And then he came out and he was swinging. He had some moves to him. So I was impressed with that. But
yeah, Scott Adkins, the guy that did I can't remember the name of the character. Yeah, he was just the boss, like in that Berlin like club scene with the gold teeth and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Adkins is also like a martial arts legend, and so he's really just. I mean, I'm not going to compare him to like Donnie Yen necessarily, like Keanu, but like he's just as like famous and like respected in that regard. So I thought it was so fun how they like threw him into those prosthetics and that suit, and then still had him do like his epic like action stuff. I thought that was pretty like fun. It's just like, I think this movie in particular, John Wick across the board takes inspiration from a lot of things, but I really think they just threw everything like in the kitchen sink at this movie, and they took inspiration from old samurai movies and like movies like with duels, like Barry Lyndon and like The Warriors as like a gangland like type movie, and then also like anime and like the character designs and like the choreography. Lawrence of Arabia is like highly inspired at the beginning of the movie. There's just so many cool influences that they pull from, and I thought again, if this may be the last one, like they're going out on a high note and they're really like not holding back and like pulling out all the stops. And like I did respect that. There's also a lot of like Sergio Leone, like spaghetti western, Good, Bad, and the Ugly vibes to this, I think, at times, which I thought was really, really cool. But Mr. Nobody in particular, he is like a cowboy. Like he has the revolver that he's like twists in his hand and like puts into his holster. He also has that repeating rifle that he like has the repeater like action to it, which I thought was really cool. So, and then of course he has like his like trusty sidekick, like the dog, which I thought was fun. So yeah, I think that again, there's merit to your criticisms, and I think it's, you know, it's not going to be everyone's like 5 out of 5 cup of tea. I don't think that the John Wick movies are ever going to be that for everyone, but I do think that I think this is a substantial step up. I wasn't totally sure after the first viewing, and I saw it like after a long day at work. It's a long movie. I was lulling in the middle and I was like, damn, like I need to make sure I'm like locked in, like I need to pay attention. And then afterwards, like I said, the last 30 minutes absolutely elevated it for me. And then after I sat on it, I thought about it for like a week or so or a few days. I was like, damn, like that was really good. Like there's some really special stuff in there. And then when I saw it, like not in a bad like state of energy or like a bad mood or anything, like I just sat down and watched it, like knowing what to expect. Like I think I just got to like sit and appreciate like everything a lot more, and I noticed things that I didn't, and I accepted kind of knowing like where the story is going for, and I thought that was all good. And again, it's hard to compare it to some of these other franchises and whatnot. And I think Mission Impossible, as much as I loved this movie, as much as I thought it was incredible, I'm gonna buy the 4K box set as soon as it comes out. I do think Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 this year is definitely going to be better. Because I think Fallout is like a 5 out of 5 masterpiece, like incredible action movie. And I think Dead Reckoning is probably going to be just as good, if not better. And I'm just so in on that franchise and like Ethan Hunt. And I think that these two movies are coming out in the same year. I think that's a very special occasion. And we have an Indiana Jones movie coming out. We have superhero movies that I'm sure will have some good action in them. So there's a lot to appreciate. But,
Action family is eating good.
Action family is eating good. And John Wick as a whole, what would you say your thoughts on the franchise? If this is the last one, if it's just these 4 chapters, which is still a lot of chapters, I would say, for a movie franchise, what do you think of like the legacy, or like how you feel about it overall? How would you rank the movies as we kind of move forward to, they have spinoffs coming, no doubt. We already know they're doing a ballerina spinoff with Ana de Armas, and I think Keanu is supposed to have a cameo in that. And then
I believe so, yeah.
I think Rina Sawayama as Akira, I think that's a likely spin-off potential. You know, Mr. Nobody, I think I would love
the Continental TV series as well.
The Continental Peacock series coming out, which I would tune into that, just check it out, see how that looks. But what do you overall thoughts moving forward, and also like kind of look back?
Big fan of the franchise. I love the way that people like talk about Die Hard changing action movies. Like I feel like John Wick absolutely did that for action movies of this era. It set a ton of people trying to replicate what John Wick has done, and that's been to like varying degrees of success. But this franchise has done it particularly well across all 4 movies. I enjoyed all 4. I can't rank them accurately right now just because of, it's been a while since I've seen 1 and 2 at least. But I think that there's not a bad one in the bunch. I think they're all varying degrees of good to great, and very worthwhile. If this is the end, solid franchise. I was gonna say trilogy, solid quadrilogy. Excellent revival for Keanu during his renaissance and making him once again like one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. So big love for this franchise. One question for you, Johnny, before we wrap up. Spoiler alert. Dead or alive? Yes or no? One word answer.
Dead.
I like that. I hope so. I know they said they're going to take it was such a great, in a movie that's all about shooting and violence. It was a very poetic, peaceful ending. I want to see it stay put. Don't undo the stakes. I'm sure they could bring him back in some form or fashion, but they mentioned they're taking a break from the mainline John Wick franchise, at least. So maybe he'll come back down the road. Who knows? We're going to get more of him in some of these spinoffs, but I think this is a fitting end and solid ending to this episode. We talked about a lot of great things here, and it was a fun one. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening week in and week out. We appreciate the support, and we could not do it without you.
Absolutely not. Great to be back. Another fun time with Zach here, and appreciate you all supporting, listening in. Lots more to come, of course, in the near future. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube to keep up with everything. Got plenty of interviews, articles, all that good stuff coming around from me and Zach. And those accounts can be found at Inside Film Room.
And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe to the newsletter, The Rewind. You can find that on our social or on our website. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, anywhere you can find a podcast. We are there. And come back next week. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot of things, talking Air, the new movie from Ben Affleck. We'll be talking Ted Lasso, episode 4, Succession, episode 3. It's going to be a blast. We'll see you there.